It's time to paint up some dire wolves for your Soulblight Gravelords army or Cursed City Nemesis. Start by priming everything black with an airbrush and make sure that you cover every inch of each model with this black primer. Next, switch to a white primer and zenithal highlight each model at a 30 to 45 degree angle all the way around. If there are areas you want to be a little bit more highlighted, apply more white primer. I'm going to be using Army Painter Speed Paints, and I will work from the lightest colors to the darkest. I'm going to start with Palette Bone Speed Paint, which I'm going to apply onto all these bony areas of each of the models. I recommend using the box art as a guide. The approach of starting with the lighter colors first and what seems to be accent areas may seem counterintuitive, but it ended up working out really well. One of the things about putting the darker colors later is that you can touch up a lot of mistakes as you paint the darker colors. This Palette Bone Speed Paint goes into any areas with exposed bone. You can use the box art to help guide you, or just look to find any areas that look like bone. Moving on to the next darker color, which is Orc Skin, I apply this into all the eye sockets of each of the wolves. This gives it an eerie green effect. I move up the darkness chart to Slaughter Red, and this goes on all the sinewy parts such as exposed muscle on each of the wolves. Work your way around the model and try to find for open sores or exposed tongues and apply this Slaughter Red. If you have any trouble finding these areas, always refer to the box art or try to go to the GW website where they have 360-degree views. Overall, just do your best, try to cover as many areas as you can. Whatever you miss is not a big deal. The black that comes afterwards will cover a lot of it. I also use the Slaughter Red and I apply a highlight around any of the areas that I had painted with bone. This makes it look like skin that was recently decayed and pulling away from the bone area, which makes it really eerie and gives it a very macabre effect. The next darkest color is Gravelord Gray, and this goes on the two models that have stones on their bases. It would be mainly the Doom Wolf and one other Dire Wolf as I'm showing here. On both these rocks there is a skull and a bunch of roots, so I make sure to steer clear of those because I will be applying different speed paints on those areas. I use any leftover Palette Bone Speed Paint and I paint the skulls that are on 3 of the models. I then use a little bit of hardened leather speed paint and I apply it onto the roots of 2 of the dire wolves' bases. This brown also goes on the arrow shaft on one of the dire wolves. I use leftover Gravelord Gray to paint the feathers on the arrow. Now switching to the predominant color, which is Grim Black. This goes on very big areas on all the wolves and I use a broad brush to do this. The key here is when I approach any area that has bone or red, I slow down and I make sure that I carefully outline around it and not drown those areas with black. The easiest way to picture this is to try to cover any area that still has white primer with this Grim Black speed paint. It is actually a lot easier than it looks, and the nice part about it is that it actually blends into some of the colors. For instance, if I hit some of the red with it, it just kind of blends together and everything looks synchronous. I particularly like Army Painter's Grim Black because it is an excellent contrast type paint that really gives very good highlights on the upper areas. It is truly a one brush solution for shadows and highlights. All you have to do is apply it once and you're done. Gunmetal metallic paint goes on only one area, which is this helmet on the base. I use skeletal bone acrylic paint and a smaller detailing brush, and I apply this onto all the claws of all the wolves. You can apply a wash onto these if you want, but I just kind of left them as is. It just makes them a little bit brighter and makes the claws look more menacing. I kept the washes simple. I used strong tone on only the helmet on the base. You do not have to wash anything that's speed painted. I now apply a little bit of blue tone wash onto the drool that's on 3 of the wolves. As you can see here, I left the drool white and I just apply some of this blue wash to it to give it a slightly watery look, and it works pretty well. Onward to basing. I keep things pretty simple by applying a single material base onto all the wolves. I apply Elmer's glue onto the base. I use an old brush to spread the glue out. I then generously sprinkle the basing material onto the base and it will stick to the Elmer's glue that I had put there. It is a simple way to finish off your miniatures without spending too much time. I finish everything off with some black primer which I apply around the rims to touch up any overspray from the priming process. I recommend 2 coats of matte varnish to protect your hard work. And with that, your dire wolves should be done. It took me only an hour and 45 minutes to paint 10 dire wolves, which is about 10 minutes per model. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be painting up the remaining models for Cursed City Nemesis and my Soulblight Gravelord army. I hope to see you in the next video. Happy hobbying.